Now, earlier this month, one of the best-loved writers of the late 20th century died at the age of 87. Anita Brookner had come to writing relatively late in life. Her first novel, A Start in Life, was published in 1981 when she was in her early 50s. From then on, there was a novel every year. The best known was Hôtel du Lac, published in 1984. It won the Booker Prize and was made into a film. In 1982, Anita spoke to Sue McGregor about A Start in Life, which had just been serialised on Woman's Hour. What had inspired her to write?
Well, I think it was a sort of experiment. There was a gap in my life, and I wanted to fill it, and I wanted to fill it as constructively as possible. I'd always admired novels. I'd always learned a great deal from them. I wondered if I could do it.
I wonder if you felt that as a trained observer of pictures, it was also helpful to you to start observing people. Well, you'd presumably observed people for most of your life, but to observe people as a novelist.
No, I don't think it makes any difference at all. I think writing novels comes from memory or from a layer of experience that you don't directly connect with anything at all, except the writing of novels.
Have you got a good memory?
Superb.
Total recollection?
Extraordinary recollection, yes, and it's more or less unconscious.
Presumably also for conversations?
Yes, I think so. I've always been a listener, I think, and always been used as a listener. I like to hear, I like to learn that way. I think novel writing is more about listening than seeing.
I wonder how much, though, of your own experience you've woven into this particular story, because there are some very obvious parallels between you and Dr. Ruth Weiss.
Yes.
A woman of 40-ish, single, of European background, PhD, expert in one branch of the arts. Her mother was once a professional success, and she, the daughter, spent some time in Paris. All these things apply equally to you.
Absolutely.
Are you Ruth Weiss?
No, I'm not. Not at all. The only things that I can connect directly are that I did live in that room in Paris and I did move into that flat in Paris. Everything else is totally invented.
Except that, the parallels of family background and mother are very similar.
My mother was totally different, and if I had to write about my parents, I'd write fact, because I think they're too bizarre for fiction.
Your parents are bizarre?
I think so.
In what way?
Much more European, much more eccentric, much more unpredictable. They had different aspirations for me than the parents in the book, who simply ignore their daughter. My parents wanted me to make a brilliant social success, an even more devastatingly brilliant marriage, and apart from that they really weren't interested, but they were very disappointed.
Do you feel they would still be disappointed in you?
They would be amazed, I think, at what I'd turned into, which would be something that they couldn't recognize.
The women in this novel, A Start in Life, seem to be much more sharply focused than the men, and the men are rather weak. Was that something that was deliberate in your plan of writing?
Yes, I think that strong women, and I think the women in the book are strong, find that weak men attach themselves to such strong women. It's a pattern that seems to be repeated.
But virtuous women, and Ruth Weiss is a virtuous woman in the book, don't win out in the end. This also seems to be the message of your book.
Oh, that's the very strong message, I think. And I'm afraid it's true.
Anita Brookner talking to Sue McGregor. So what was the appeal of Anita's work, so often depicting women for whom life had not necessarily turned out the way they'd hoped? Well, Laura Thompson is a writer and a fan. Laura, what made you love Anita Brookner's work?
Oh, it's so great to hear her. Well, she has this completeness of tone. She creates a world that is entirely recognisable, and has been caricatured slightly as, lonely women living in melancholic, dim-lit mansion flats. It's a reductive description. There's an element of truth in it. But it's her absolute integrity as a writer that I responded to, even when I started reading her when I was about 20. I was, too young to grasp the brutality with which she renders the truths about loss and aging, but she is so. The way she ended that interview by saying, it's like when she says in Hotel du Lac, the hare always wins. We tell ourselves it's the tortoise, but the hare always wins. That philosophy of life, and you hear her say, and it's true, and I think it is true, and she's absolutely rigorous in her depiction of those truths. She doesn't attempt to people please the way some novelists perhaps do.
You've described her as the last great novelist of the 20th century. Now, great is a big word.
Yeah.
Why did you choose it?
I think it is the... when she won the Booker with Hotel du Lac in 1984, and some people have said, she shouldn't have won it, J.G. Ballard should have won. And I can see the force of their argument, she doesn't have scope, but then obvious riposte to that is, nor does Jane Austen. I think the completeness of her world is absolutely extraordinary. She has, even though she's only depicting what the 2 inches of ivory, as the phrase has it, the backdrop is only glimpse, but it's so complete. The minor characters, their lives are going on in ways that you only pick up on. She'll throw a sentence here, a sentence there, but you have that sense of continuous life going on that only the very best novelists can achieve, I think. And I think it's the quality of truth in a novelist that determines the enduring nature of their value, I would say.
She did seem reluctant when she was talking to Sue to see parallels between her own life and that of her heroine in that book, Ruth Weiss. How autobiographical do you think her work is?
Well, I did smile when she said that, because Sue McGregor had just listed this whole, hadn't she? It was kind of unarguable, but she slightly sort of dodged it, didn't she? She said everything in the book is made up, but that's not the same as Dr. Ruth not being innately the same. She said herself, I write the same novel over and over. Her heroines are these immensely intelligent, too intelligent, really. She said in an interview, I remember, she said, the unexamined life is so much happier. I wish I could do that. And in a book, Look at Me, an early book, which is an absolutely brilliant book about a woman who becomes a writer, faute de mieux, really. And she says, becoming a writer is your penance for not being lucky. So she's got that marvellous thing of being able to see the woman's life in a more conventional way, and to long for those things that the successful women in her books achieve, and at the same time to portray the other side, the woman who examines life. And I can't believe that she didn't find huge fulfillment in doing that. But she said, I write books because I have no children.
Now, Hotel du Lac is her best known book. It was, as you said, the Booker winning book. Is it her best?
I don't think. Do you? It's the one when she sets out her philosophy most clearly, if you like. Edith is a marvellous character. Again, you would say strong elements of Anita Brookner. How can I say that? But that's what you feel. Who is placed in a moral dilemma at this hotel. Brilliantly done, this Swiss hotel, oh God. That mild landscape that's so tranquil and so sort of deadly. And she's given a moral dilemma. Is she going to become a hare? Is she going to succumb to the temptation of this devil in good tailoring, Mr. Neville, who offers her a life? He says, people are so uncomfortable with moral standards. Edith, you're a lady. Marry me and enjoy life. Or is she going to stick to her principles, which are giving her a less happy, but more a life full of integrity? And that moral dilemma is very brilliantly laid out, and I think movingly laid out. But I think a novel like Providence, which is very similar again, but I think it's got so much wit and so much. I would prefer Providence. I would prefer A Start in Life. I would prefer. They're perhaps more nuanced. I don't know.
Laura Thompson, thank you very much. I think what we're really saying is read them all.